Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt, you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are never alone. Now, here on Invisible Condition, we get it. Okay, for those of you out there that are living with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition might be, and no matter how long you've lived with it, you just got diagnosed or it's been with you your entire life. I get it. I'm 7 brain surgeries in, man. I was diagnosed at 2 weeks old. I can relate. The thing is, though, no matter how hard it gets, with whatever condition you're living with, there is always hope. I want you to remember that. There is always hope. Now, if you're not sure about that or you've lost it, you've lost your hope. You're like, where'd it go? I don't know. Today's been rough. My hope is damaged. It's gone. I don't know where it went. Shoot me an email. Seriously. This is my personal email at our nonprofit organization, Hydro with Hope. Just put hope in the subject line. If I see that come in my inbox, I'll send you a calendar link. We can chat. That's all. I don't like people living in a world without hope. This is the best I can do. So I want to help you. So please do that. All right, listen up. I am very, you know what? Before we get there, let me do one thing. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, 2 things before we bring our guest on. Okay, one is, by the way, thank you for watching. If you are on any of these platforms, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, if you're on E360, we love you too. And if you're on one of those social media platforms, you actually get to interact with us. So if you have a question or you hear something that we say today and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not what I heard, or that's interesting, tell me more. Just throw a comment in the social media comments and we will get back to you and we can have a conversation or get on the calendar, whatever. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. We wouldn't be here without you. Now, one thing I would like to talk to you about is our nonprofit organization, which is our nonprofit sponsor, which is called Hydro with Hope, which is there to support people with the condition that I was born with, which is called hydrocephalus. Now, you know why we didn't include that in the name of the nonprofit. It's a doozy. It's a mouthful. Hydro with Hope is there to provide boots on the ground support for people and families that are diagnosed with this crazy condition. Like I said, 7 brain surgeries in, man, starting at 2 weeks old. And I had a couple more in my childhood, and I've had 4 brain surgeries in the last 12 years. It's been crazy. It can turn your life upside down. And so we have published a journal, fill in the blank journal, that can walk you through. It's called My Hydro Warrior Story. It can walk you through all of that. Starting from you going to the hospital, surgery, recovery, all those crazy doctor appointments you get to do afterwards for follow-up and scans and emotional download, and it's all in there. And then you take this with you to your follow-ups. You never get caught with nothing to say because you've got it all written down. All the questions you wanted to ask the doctor that you would have forgotten otherwise, they're written down. So we want to get that book into your hands. We also want to be that support. That email that I put up there, jeff@hydrowithhope.com. Shoot me a message. Let's talk. Also, my wife and I love to speak around the country and around the world about this and tell our story of hope. She is an amazing caregiver. I have had what I would say is a not so typical experience with this condition. And so I love telling my story. So if you or somebody else you know that might want a speaker for an event, man, let me know. I'd love to come talk to you. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is our studio sponsor, which is NRG, which stands for Network Referral Group, which for any business owners out there, I know that you've networked. I know if you're a business owner, you are no stranger to networking, whether it's in person, online, right? Since 2020, it's mostly online, right? Or it continues to be sometimes. I tell you what, Network Referral Group, I joined a couple years ago, jumped on board with Mike, who runs it, and man, I have never seen such a never-ending source of referrals in my life. I probably get a referral at least once a day from somebody in the group. It's literally the source of never-ending referrals. And that's why I approached him about sponsoring the studio, and that's why he did sponsor the studio, because he saw the value of getting it out to you guys about the group, and I have found value in going to networking calls on NRG. So honestly, he's ruined me for all of the networking. Really, he does it right. So so jump on there, scan the QR code, tell Mike I sent you, and check it out. All right. Now, that is enough of that. I have an amazing guest today, and his name is Avinoam Lerner, and he is a cancer and trauma recovery expert, TEDx speaker, Army veteran, and author with more than 25 years of experience helping people facing cancer, trauma, and emotional suffering. Wow. Okay, that TEDx stage is noteworthy, by the way. I know what a big deal it is to get on there. That's awesome. So growing up in a war-torn region, he witnessed deep loss and fear at a very early age, experiencing that eventually, that will shape anybody's life, right? And shaped his life and his missions to help others heal. So he is the founder of Rapid Trauma Solution and Mindful Remission programs, which we'll get into. It's really cool. Combining trauma recovery, subconscious programming, and the science of the mind-body connection to help people, take an active role in their healing. You don't want to feel helpless in your healing. That's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? So, all right, let's bring he also has a book called Mindful Remission, The Mental Science of Healing. I can't wait for you guys to meet this guy. Let's jump right in here and bring him on the screen, and we will see where this goes, see where the story goes.
Oh, hello. Okay. It's good to be here, Jeff. Yeah,
Absolutely. This is fantastic. I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be cool. I love what you're doing because there's so many people that need it. And I have one question that I want to ask you before we get started that I ask everybody, and it's there's no wrong answer. I always love hearing what I get the answers. On the really hard days, right? Everybody has those. On the really hard days, on your worst days, how did you still maintain hope?
How long do we have?
We have an hour, so
We have
don't.
an hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do
So
have a time limit.
I love the question. I love the question because when people are struggling, as in trauma, as in cancer treatment, there are many dark days, many days where it's just very hard to even get out of bed because the world seems so difficult and helpless. But the way that I do that is just what I tell or ask or invite my clients to do, which is I check my story. I have a story about what's going on, and that story changes from day to day. And if if I'm facing something hard, the first thing that I want to do is address the story that I'm telling myself, because we've never really learned to do this I like to say that we've learned how to survive, not really thrive. And it's just different skills, different set of skills that we need to apply. So my particular solution, I should say, is to first and foremost check my story. And if it's anywhere in the realm of something was done and I'm so small and everything else is so big, or something is going on that is beyond my capacity, I like to remind myself of some of the things that we've all done in life, that I've done in life already. Some things were hard to do, and yet I was able to accomplish, able to get there, able to put one foot in front of the other. So that's what I do. It's no different, one foot in front of the other. Change the quality of the story, because that will change how you feel, and how you feel will allow either new information to come through, or just access greater levels of energy, resilience, and even hope.
Love it. Love it. And I love that word, in case you hadn't noticed. Hope is one of my favorite things to talk about, because it's just, it's something you got to have. So I love that
Well,
you
the,
said
the
that.
challenge, I think, for a lot of, I've heard it a million times for mostly for medical providers,
Mhm.
where they say, you're kind of giving people false hope. And my
Mm.
answer is always very clear that false hope can only exist where you provide false guarantees. I don't do that. I don't do that. And that throws them off. And then I say, and what do you do when you tell them they only have a certain amount of time to live? Or, right? I
Right?
mean, you're doing the
Yeah.
opposite. In fact, so I want to just kind of bring the conversation down to, to the intimate personal level,
Yeah.
because yes, everybody can, it's very easy to tell you that you're doing something wrong or to try to limit what's possible for people. But we are human beings, and the capacity that the human being has to thrive, to grow, to adapt is unmatched. And we
Yeah.
are able to do that even in those challenging moments.
Totally. I love that, because it's true. Like, I mean, hey, I've been under the knife 15 times for different surgeries, man. 7 times for brain surgery. I have heard it all. I have heard the good, the bad, the ugly, the crazy, the you know, the wait, what you said, what now? Uh and so yeah, doctors don't, most doctors and surgeons, I'm not going to throw them all under the bus, because I wouldn't be here without them. They do great work most of the time, but some of them, they live and die by the statistics, and they're not afraid to just stone faced tell you there's this chance, there's that chance, but they don't think about the empirical evidence that's out there about people that have beat those odds, right? So I guess, for me, the lesson is, don't always take what the doctor says as gospel, because the
There,
human spirit is an amazing thing.
correct. And the truth of the matter is that medicine is not a written done story. It's a story that is updated with every new discovery and breakthrough.
Yeah.
And if they would acknowledge that, that will be fine. But it's really, I've learned over the years, and again, you mentioned I've been doing this work now for 25 years,
Yeah.
it's just not their scope of practice to address all these things that are so very important to us personally. When you receive a diagnosis or you lived with trauma and you're kind of feeling that it's all in your head, no one sits you down and tell you, and here's how we're going to take care of you, right?
Right.
Not just the trauma, not just the tumor, not just the body, but you, the person living in this experience whose life is just currently very difficult to experience. No one look you in the eye and tell you that the emotions that you're feeling, difficult as may be, hope or helplessness, hopelessness, and fear and overwhelm, they're not just emotionally uncomfortable, they're physiologically dangerous, which is
Yes.
why you need a greater level of support, right? And that's
I
essentially what
agree.
I do.
I love that, because you're absolutely right. And I say this a lot to various people throughout the day, on calls or during a show or whatever. It's, look, I get that, like a neurosurgeon, for instance, neurosurgery, that's a very narrow field, but you don't want your neurosurgeon to be a jack of all trades, right? You don't want
Correct.
like, you want him to be the best neurosurgeon you can find. You don't want him, dabbling in all these other things.
Yeah.
So the fact that a neurosurgeon, like, I had some pretty wicked side effects over the last four brain surgeries. They didn't have a clue what to do to tell me to help with those side effects, but that was okay. I wasn't mad at them. I knew that their thing was brain surgery,
Yeah.
and anything outside of that, there's plenty out there in the alternative world that can help me with that. So I figured, great, let's go explore, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's important to realize, that
Absolutely.
not everybody can do everything, right?
Correct. And I want to, I'm the first to say that medicine brings tremendous value in the hierarchy of treatment. That's number one, right?
Right.
But there's a healing equation at work that has to address the whole person, not just the physical side of that person. And that healing equation is comprised of other parts, such as the
Mhm.
mental and emotional as well. Because intuitively and also scientifically, we know that if we only solve one part of the healing equation, we will get partial results. When we're dealing with cancer, that can mean recurrences, not what we want. So we have to go a little deeper
Yes.
than surface level. And it's not about therapy, and it's not about listening to another meditation track or self-hypnosis track. This is really about going even further and deeper into the part of the mind that we call the subconscious mind, because it's the part that governs 95% of our bodily functions, including
Yeah.
immune function, and it's the emotional part. So when we work with trauma, it's important for us to address the emotional part, because trauma is emotional. When we work with cancer patients, we still have to address the emotional mind, the subconscious mind, because it governs immune function. So
Yes.
that's why there's an intersection there that I unfortunately not enough is talked about, the intersection between trauma and cancer. But
Yeah.
I will say I want to make sure that people understand it's not that because you have trauma, you're going to have cancer. That's not the equation. It's a bit more complicated than that. And
Right.
I'm happy to say more on that.
I love that. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because not that long ago, I had a guest, might even just been a week ago or maybe a couple weeks ago. She is a 3-time cancer survivor, and she actually helps C-suite level people like CEOs and CFOs and, the people that own companies and run companies. What happens when they get cancer? What happens when they get a condition or a disease that's going to take them out of the running for a little bit to treat it? Do they have all their stuff like, there's so much to consider with that, but like, she's doing that side, you're doing the emotional, like, there's so many pieces to it that people don't even think about. It's not just, oh, I need to go maybe consider chemo or consider this natural remedy or there's so many pieces to it, which is what I love about what you're doing.
And those pieces are important.
Yes.
But there's more to us. The reality is that we are not just a physical body. There's a person living in this body. That person needs support. It's as simple as that. I don't know why that is controversial. What kind of support? Mainly, it's really not about more therapy, as I said, not because therapy isn't important or valuable. Of course it is. But talk therapy in its, I would say, conventional format primarily engages the conscious part of our mind, which is logical and rational, and therefore not very useful when we try to address emotions. That's the simple reality of it.
Right, because people don't, whether they think they do or not, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, everybody. You don't understand your emotions as well as you think you do. I don't. You don't. There's always another layer to the onion, right? Just when you figure out that layer, there goes another layer, and you go, oh man, oh, okay, next, and then you got to deal with that. So by the way, I just put your a QR code with your website here, and I want to make sure that people know where to go to reach you, because when we're talking about this, I guarantee you there's going to be people in the audience going, holy cow, I just need to get in touch with him. So how do people, when they go to that website, what are they going to see?
They're going to see what's available regarding trauma work, and I call it Rapid Trauma Solution. That's the RTS program. And they're going to see what's available for people that are currently in cancer treatment or in survivorship, their caregivers. And so there's in-person work. I live in Boston, Massachusetts, and my office is here, but there's work that we can do online if it's for cancer patients. There's an 8-week-long program. It's called Mindful Remission. And you mentioned my upcoming book. It's due to publish next month. In other words, June. We're almost there. So we're getting closer. It's called Mindful Remission, the mental science of healing. And I call it the mental science of healing because healing is a mechanism. That's what people will learn will learn about when they get to my website. If they want to find out more information, whether it is a good fit for them or what it all entails, they can easily schedule a consultation. It's free and to the point. Part of my mission is information, because I feel that people spend so much time searching online, and unfortunately to the nervous system, to the human nervous system, that is a threat, because we're constantly anticipating finding something that isn't working, or identifying with a story of someone who had a lot of difficulty or challenges or pain or suffering, whatever that is. So our nervous system is constantly in anticipation, anxious.
I think you're right. And the funny thing is, I don't know why, but this expression keeps popping into my head in this kind of situation. And there is no positive. There's so much negative in the health world. I mean, it's supposed to be the health world, but it's like the sickness world. But there's so much negative. Like, for instance, I think it might have been somebody in the dental industry that told me this, which was hilarious. He said, "Have you ever noticed there's no positive counterpart to having a toothache? There's only the negative. Nobody ever says, you know what, man? Today, my teeth feel fantastic." Nobody ever says that. There's no positive counterpart to that. There's so much in the medical and that world that there is no positive counterpart to things. Everything is negative. So you have to counteract that from outside the medical world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because pain is a great motivator to take action, and medicine offer a solution. But this ties right back to my statement a few minutes ago, where we learned how to survive, not to thrive. Because when do we pay attention to something that isn't working? I mean, to any parts of our body, we don't really think about our teeth or our shoulders or our spleen, unless there's pain or something isn't working properly. Then, oh boy, then we'll pay attention and we'll
That's right.
take some action. So, in the greater context, this is for me what illness is all about. Illness is a call to action. It's not a form of punishment. There's no someone in the sky up there that is looking down and says, "Oh, today," nothing like that. Illness is a call to action, and a call for us to begin to live more authentically, more aligned with our core values. Because otherwise, we will just not. I mean, that will not happen. And I think in our first conversation, I mentioned that we live in 2026, yes, but our operating system, mentally and emotionally, it's still Windows 93. Most of us have not updated our operating system to fit who we are today. So we might be adults and functioning adults, very high functioning adults, but our mental and emotional programming is still very much of that younger version of who we are. And that's why we have so many issues with relationships, with life in general, because we're not seeing things as they truly are. We're seeing them as who we are. And if we are that younger version of us, then we're essentially, and I hope people don't take it wrong, because I certainly found about myself that I've spent many years in what I call an existential tantrum, right? Something happened when I was young and I didn't like it. And so for the rest of my growing years, it kind of governed me. I was in an emotional tantrum of sort, and many of us are in that space. We want what we want, and we're not. So we just haven't updated our understanding of who we are, of maybe how this world function, and we need to meet today with that fresh attitude, outlook, understanding of who we are, so that we can get better results. And what the mind is trying to do when illness shows up is point us to the direction of saying, "Hey, buddy, your programming is out of date. You need to do something, and that's why I'm kicking your behind, so that you take action." So it's a call to action. And if we learn to look at it in that way, there will be a lot more agency and a lot less suffering.
Yep, there we go. Yes, exactly. I had myself muted for a second there.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right. And one thing that I feel like we've said at the beginning, but I want to say it again, because you've mentioned something a couple times that's kind of sparked it in my brain. When you go to, like, for instance, for somebody that's been in the medical world, having surgeries or with invisible conditions can be, there's so many out there that require so many different treatments and different things. And so when you go to the doctor and you say, "This hurts," like, "Hey, my foot hurts," they send you to the foot doctor. "Hey, my tooth hurts," they send you to the dentist. "Hey, my my neck hurts. They send you to the neurologist maybe, or the whatever. Everything is pieced out, right? It's all pieced and parted out like a car that you're trying to replace a part on. But that doesn't really effectively do as well as treating the whole body, and not treating symptoms, but treating the root cause, which is the opposite of the way that the conventional medicine world works, right? And
Correct.
so I'm thinking that's probably where you come in and say, nope, we got to treat this holistically, and we got to treat this whole body. How do we
Well,
look at that?
the reality is that people understand, at least intuitively, that if they will continue to do what they've done so far, they're going to continue to get the same results. And
Yes.
people are incredibly intuitive in many ways, and they're very informed nowadays, and they understand that yes, they have to take care of their physical body, or where the crisis is visible through medicine, but they are suffering through this, and their oncologist doesn't know how to support them. It's not their training, or, as I mentioned earlier, scope of practice. So they're searching, and what they haven't learned about, because even their oncologist will not tell them, is that there's actually a field of science it's called psychoneuroimmunology. I know it's a big word, or PNI for short, but psychoneuroimmunology is not anything new. It's been around since the early 70s. It's research that came out of the University of Rochester in New York, where Dr. Ader discovered something quite profound. And what his team discovered is that our immune system can be conditioned. Now, when I say conditioned, some of your audience may recall back to Pavlov's dog conditioning experiment, right, with dogs and
Yep.
salivation and food.
Yeah.
So what the researchers here tried to do is something very similar, just with rodents, and they gave them some drug that will cause them bellyache mixed with sweet water. And they wanted to see, when they remove the drug, if they just give them the sweet water, will they behave or have the same bellyache as before? And of course they did. So that's what the conditioning process is all about. So until that point, everything worked properly, but then the rodents began to die. And that was not part of the process or the experiment. So the researchers went back to the drawing board, and they figured out that there's actually a component in the drug that they gave the rodents that suppresses immune function. And that was the discovery moment. That was the holy grail, the moment that really clicked for anyone engaging in integrative or mind-body medicine. That's really the holy grail, because now we understand that thoughts and emotions are not just fleeting something that move through our minds and hearts, but they're actually physiologically impactful, right? They do engage with the organic tissue in the body. So essentially, psychoneuroimmunology is the study of this communication or interaction between the mind, which is the non-physical part of who we are, because
Right.
if you're going to cut the body open, there's no little person in there, we hope, right? So it's the mind interacting with the brain, which is the switchboard. That's the 3-pound gray organ in our skull. Then the nervous and immune system of the body. So now that we know that, shouldn't medicine, because that's medical research, shouldn't medicine inform us about it? Well, they would have, but it's, again, just not part of their training. It seems like it's a different field. So that's where people like myself come into the fold to support patients or people that are living with significant trauma, to help make sure that the trauma doesn't take hold of their body in the form of illness or addiction or other chronic limitations, destructive behaviors, or if it already has, then here is what they can do to begin to ensure that the mind send a different quality of information to the body, so the body can express different quality of experience. In other words, health or balance rather than ill health and imbalance.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is quite the switch, right? That's what people are missing, I think. Yeah.
Correct. And so when you talk about the root cause, I think it's, in an oversimplified way, we can say that part of what we know is impacting our biology is what's happening in our mind. And we know this because of the Human Genome Project, which was a very big undertaking back in 2000s. I think it was completed in 2003. And what we've learned, I mean, the premise was that we're going to find the one gene per one condition. So if that's the case, we can eliminate the cancer gene and ensure that nobody's suffering this way. But the reality was a little more complicated. We found that there's very few genes, small number of genes, very many conditions. So that didn't work. So then we had to conclude, okay, it's not a gene per a particular condition, but rather a combination of genes. And some of the genes are turned on, some of the genes are turned off that impact or express in some condition. And so then the next obvious question was, okay, so what turns some genes on and some genes off? And while the answer is complex, in part or in large part, it is the internal environment in which the cells are living in. In other words, what's happening in our mind. If you live in negativity and your stress response is activated, your nervous system is dysregulated, and you're constantly producing, your body's producing adrenaline and cortisol, you're going to have one very challenging trajectory. But if you learn how to shift that current to a more balanced or harmonious or more aligned with a sense of well-being, then obviously you carry different thoughts, different emotions, and so forth. And we can learn how to do that. Everyone can learn how to do that because everyone felt sad and everyone felt happy. Everyone felt angry and everyone felt joyful.
Yeah.
So it's just happening very much beneath the surface. But thankfully, we have researchers that have paved the way very clearly. From Ohio State University, there's Dr. Janice Glaser and her research about the fact that chronic stress can reduce natural killer cells activities in the body by up to 50%. So this is significant because these are the very cells that the body relies on to identify and eliminate cancer. Then we have research from researchers like Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, for example, in epigenetics, Dr. Joe Dispenza, most people are familiar with. And what they proved beyond any doubt is that DNA is not destiny. DNA defined in great part our biology, but it's not the only part that defines our biology. What happens in our mind create or shape the environment in which the body functions, therefore promoting either health or lack of it, right? So if there's one thing that I hope that your audience can listen to or hear or take from this, is that there is a healing mechanism within all of us. It's installed in each and every one of us. It works better in some, maybe not as efficient in others, but it's all there. And it's the same healing mechanism that healed our broken bones and mended broken bones and healed our scrapes and wounds and helped us overcome infections and bacteria and even COVID. And I mean, that mechanism is working 24/7. And we don't have to lift a finger consciously for that mechanism to work. What we need to learn how to do is not invent the wheel. We are not the one who's healing the body, but we have to take certain actions and come into alignment with the very principles and mechanism that allow the body to heal.
Okay, yes, I told you. Man, you said a lot of good stuff in there, and I was jotting some stuff down so I'd remember it later. And so what happens? So it's really it's a retraining of your mind to help your body to heal is what I'm. Am I oversimplifying a little bit?
Yeah, I can oversimplify it even further. If you have a light bulb in your home, in a light fixture, you're not responsible for producing the electricity, right?
Right.
Electricity, I don't see it. I don't necessarily understand it, but I know that if I plug something to the wall and everything works, my light bulb will turn on.
Yep.
That's because light is a principle. I can go, and by principle, I mean it's something reliable, replicable. I can go into any room around the world and turn the light switch on, and the light will come on. The opposite isn't true. In other words, darkness, which is the absence of light, darkness is not a principle. It's the absence of the principle, right? There's no dark switch that I can turn on. And my point is that if you have a light fixture and your bulb is working, there's electricity. That electricity that is coming through is always the same voltage, right? But I can plug into that light fixture 40 watt, 400 watt, 4,000 and 40,000 watt light bulbs. And they will just shine brighter and brighter and brighter. And my point is that when we are born, we're essentially shining bright. And then something happened. However long ago we, something changed for us. We were healthy until a certain point. Now we're not healthy anymore. And the reason that is because we've dimmed the light. And what does that mean? We've learned certain things about ourselves, our self-value and worth, whether we are worthy of healing and recovery, whether we are worthy of that piece of chocolate. I still remember, and I don't mind sharing this, when I grew up, things, we didn't have a lot of resources. And my father, in his endless wisdom, thought that he's educating me by giving me 1 square of chocolate a day.
Okay.
Now I'm about to turn 59 this year.
Okay.
I would say it's been a while.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you what happens to me when I see a bar of chocolate. It sings, it speaks to me, it calls my name. And thankfully, I have some willpower and restraints and a better understanding, so I don't devour the whole thing.
Right.
But it's still that event is still playing in my mind, still impacting my experience even today, and I would never know that that's the case.
Yeah.
And it happens in many other ways as well.
Oh, yeah.
So my point is, we want to be able to understand there's a mechanism at place. We don't have to cross our finger and hope that we will heal. We can learn the skill of helping and supporting our body and biology in this campaign.
Totally. Well, that brought up something that I remembered from a few years ago is that trauma, whether it's a good version of trauma or the bad, first of all, the body doesn't know the difference between good or bad trauma. It could be you just had twins, right? Or you just bought your dream car, or it could have been that somebody you love just was in a car wreck and something bad happened, or it's all trauma to your brain. It's just a matter of, so if your brain doesn't know the difference between trauma, then that's actually an advantage to you in the healing process. Almost. Yeah. It feels like it would be anyway, right? It doesn't have to. It certainly
is.
Yeah.
So now you're speaking to what we call the higher mental faculties that we have. And this is very crucial, very important, because usually when we talk about the higher mental faculties, people say, well, I don't know how to do that. It's the same as someone says to me, I don't know how to meditate or how to visualize. And then my next question is, do you worry? Well, what do you mean? Do you ever worry? Oh, yeah, I worry. So if you worry, you engage, in this case, your imagination. It's one of the 6 mental faculties that we have. And you're utilizing your imagination in a certain way. It might be seamless or unconscious, but you fire up a mental scenario, usually a doomsday scenario, and then you inject that scenario with emotions.
Yep.
Fear, over whatever it is that you do, that activate the circuit, that closes the circuit, right? That's how you activate the mind-body connection. And we do this unconsciously. We learn to worry because we learn to survive. Now, if we're going to do the opposite, if I can kind of demystify the healing process for people, then it's very simple. Just do the opposite. Begin to imagine the best possible scenario, right? If you're dealing with a health challenge, imagine yourself going into the doctor's office and the doctor says, I don't understand what's going on, but, we don't see anything. I mean, you're good to go. You're like, go live your life. And then exactly, you do that, woohoo! You inject emotions. elevated emotions into that mental scenario, and your body doesn't know the difference. Your mind doesn't know the difference because your subconscious mind is literal. In other words, whether you say you don't or you say you do, it believes what you tell it. So I can kind of bring a bit of Dispenza into this, because what Dispenza, one of the beautiful things that Dispenza have said, which is profound, and I hope people can retain that, is that if you can experience the emotions ahead of the environment, which means if you can feel the joy of getting this good news from your doctor, even though right now you're not there yet physically, right? But if you can engage your higher mental faculties, fire up that mental scenario, step into it fully emotionally. If you can step into the emotions ahead of the environment, you can signal the genes ahead of the environment. And this is truly the simplest way that can explain why healing is attainable. It's not because we woke up on this side or that side, or we ate this kale or that spinach. It's not, I mean, all these things are important. I'm not putting anything down. But ultimately, the mind and body work through a certain mechanism. When we learn how to activate that mechanism consistently, because it's not about, I do have people say, well, I've done it for 15 minutes and it hasn't worked. Okay,
Right.
well, what have you done with the other 23 hours and 45 minutes of your day? Have you
Every other day.
every other day?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is not something that we do once. We just need to learn. It's part of learning how to live well
Yeah.
from a place of alignment, rather than scarcity and fear and overwhelm.
Love that. Oh my gosh. And the more you talk about this, now everybody, for those of you who've been watching the show for a while, you're gonna remember this guy. But you're talking about Joe Dispenza, you're talking about all these things you're talking about. Oh my gosh. In fact, when we're done here, I'm gonna give you the link for this particular episode. And those of you out there that have been watching for a while, maybe have seen this already. If you're not familiar with it, there was a guest I had. His name's Leland Holgate Sr. He calls himself the Willful Warrior, and he is all the stuff you're saying. That is his jam. Oh my gosh, you would love this guy. I'll introduce you to him when we're done. Here, I'll do an intro for you.
I would
But
love
he
that.
was on season 2, episode 21. Season 2, episode 21. And oh my gosh. The title, I titled the show Conversations with a Former Quadriplegic,
Oh,
because he is a former quadriplegic.
amazing.
You don't hear that very often.
No.
He's actually a former quadriplegic and a former paraplegic, 2 separate times.
Wow.
So yeah, and so it's what you're talking about just made me giggle inside, because his story is all about that. It's like
You would have loved
your
it too.
mind is so much more powerful than the physical body ever
Yeah,
gives it credit
but
for.
I want to keep it grounded. I want to make sure that people understand this requires some work. This requires some
Yes,
attention. This
totally.
requires repetition. This requires conviction. So, part of the reason why I created the Mindful Remission program, the online program, is because I see these miracles in my office so often. It's part of what we've learned to expect, but I can only work with so many people in the office. So having or giving people access to this content online is transformative, and it's essentially a structured, science-backed methodology that allow people to put to work what they might already know that is good for them. But there's no shortage of information. People know what they need to do. They just don't get to do it because
Right.
there's no structure or accountability or a guidance around that. But it's all available and it's all doable. And
Yes.
you don't have to be living with cancer. It can be any other condition that you did not get results physically through medicine. And that's important. Where do you go? Hopefully, hopefully to a place that allow you to benefit both from what medicine has to offer, because medicine is remarkable. Thankfully, we're not in the Middle Ages anymore, and we don't use
Right.
leeches and bloodletting. Thankfully, it's 2026. We have tremendous capacities. It's not the end of it. We're still in discovery process, but why not use medicine to your advantage so that you can then get the time you need to go and do the work that you want to do?
100%. I've said it a million times. I feel like over the over the last few years, I wouldn't be here without, number one, amazing medical professionals and neurosurgeons and anesthesiologists and nurses and PAs, and that, like, I wouldn't be here without that. You can't cranial sacral your way out of brain surgery sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I also wouldn't be here without neurofeedback and chiropractic neurology and pressure point therapy and vagus nerve therapy and all that, like some of the things that were outside the medical world. So really, you got to be, the first decision is, am I open to this? Am I open to exploring something that might not be what I've always thought was the only option, right?
Yeah.
And then where do I find it? And then go pursue it, you know?
Yeah. And there are others that do this kind of work. The way that I engage the subconscious mind, which again is our body's operating system, the emotional mind, the part that governs 95% of our bodily functions. Right now, our heart is beating, digestion is working, elimination, our hair is growing, we are, our body temperature is regulated, everything is happening, and we don't have to lift a finger for that, not consciously. So when we engage with this subconscious mind, we have a little bit of a challenge at hand because the door is not open. We have to kind of get past the guard or the conscious mind. And the way that I do this is with hypnotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy.
Nice.
And that is just a key to the door of the subconscious mind. Other people might engage with the subconscious mind differently, but you want to make sure that it's grounded in science, in research, that you have the evidence behind it so that you can have the confidence you need to step forward. Because if you step into a practice that just will help you feel better, I would say differently. If you're engaging with practices that are not designed to change the code in your operating system, you're not necessarily going to get the results that you want. And it's not a silver bullet. Sometimes even when we have done everything right, we might not get fully what we wanted. And, we shoot for the stars, we take what we get, because we're not in control of the whole world. We're just in control of the part that we can control. Exactly. And the way we do it is structured. It's a methodology that we can rely on and replicate again and again and again. And we can always go back to the research and the science behind it to strengthen our assurance and confidence in it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what everybody out there has known as the only option, right? Doesn't have to be the only option. That's why I'm so excited to have people like you and so many other of my guests on the show, is to talk about these things that not everybody thinks about on a daily basis. And so the sympathetic nervous system has served you well for a long time to keep you alive and protect you from situations that, right? But that's not always the answer all the time. That's why you want to explore other things, which is why I'm so glad you're here to tell us about some of those things. Unfortunately, we have like 5 minutes left. I told you time would fly, man. Time flies when you're having fun. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left, about 4 minutes left. What would you like to leave our audience with to cap this and leave them with something amazing?
Sure. Well, I want people to know that if they're going through life and they're finding themselves stumbling either in relationships or career or different dynamics, if that's a repeat kind of in their life, they can point to a theme. Just know that might be something working beneath the surface that you don't have access to. Find a local practitioner, preferably a hypnotherapist with some experience that can answer your questions clearly and honestly, that is fully transparent, and take action, because you don't have the suffering is I'd like to say the suffering is optional, but some people take offense to that. It doesn't have to be this way, and you certainly don't have to go through this experience on your own. There is support, there is solution, there is guidance, and it's available to you. And for people facing cancer, look, this is so very crucial. Unless you address what's lying beneath the surface, the mental and emotional patterns that we know through research, through psychoneuroimmunology, that are suppressing your immune system, unless we address them, not much will change. Because even if and when, and I wish that you step into remission, your nervous system will not necessarily know that the danger is past. And then every time your body winch is you're going to think it's a recurrence. You're going to live under the gun, and it doesn't have, that's not a quality of life that you deserve and want to. And if you've worked so tirelessly to heal from this treatment, to step into survivorship, you've already been through so much.
Yeah.
Just know that you can get so many bits and pieces of your life back. Something click back for you when you do this kind of work. You get yourself back, and you get life back in your family, get the person that you are to them back. They don't have to tiptoe around you, and life can be very, very rich and beautiful.
I love that. Yeah, it doesn't have to be permanent, just because, yeah. And that is just, that's that switch of mentality, you know?
Well, you are the perfect example for that, because you didn't identify with necessarily with your condition.
No.
You didn't become with cancer, it's hard because there's a whole culture around cancer, and there's this premise that people that are facing cancer are warriors, and warriors don't admit that they are scared, and it's very, very limiting. And I love that you're hosting this show, because you're a living example that you don't have to identify with the condition that you've been struggling with, and you can in many ways find a way to live life. And that's the hope that you bring to everyone. So thank you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, that's very kind. I appreciate that. Well, I tell you what, man, whew, I wish we had another hour, but we don't.
Easily.
So, I thank you so much for being here, and for telling, being so real and so transparent with what you're doing and your story, and just thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Man, I love that kind of stuff. Man, we gotta have him back sometime. I know I felt like that. I've said that with multiple guests recently, but I'm like, I wish I had 2 hours. So we'll do it. That'll be fun. We'll see if we can fit him in somewhere later down the line. So hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. It's so amazing that that you are here, that you are watching, that you have told your friends and they're watching. And I mean, you have helped us grow so much over the last 3 years on the air. And man, we're not going anywhere. We're just getting started. So we thank you for all of that. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for being here. Join us for our next episode, which will be Friday, June 12th. And good Lord, we're already midway through June. Don't blink, it'll be Christmas. Thank you so much for being here. Join us on Friday, June 12th for another incredible episode. And remember our sponsors here with Hydro with Hope. Go ahead and scan that QR code if you'd like to donate. You can donate monthly or one time. We love you either way. And also our other sponsor, which is Network Referral Group, or NRG. Seriously, if you guys are business owners out there, there is not a better place to be. I've never seen it. I think I can count the industries on one hand in 2 years that I've thought, you know what, maybe the NRG is not the spot for you. But It is so good for so many business owners. I highly encourage you to check it out. So, all right, everybody, we'll see you guys on June 12th. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you again soon.